What is up? Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to reveal to you what I think is one of the most underrated pieces of hiking gear. Drum roll please. This mystery piece of hiking gear is trekking poles. I love trekking poles. I did not always use trekking poles, and now that I have them, I don't know how I hiked without them. So in this video, I'm going to share some reasons that I love them, and at the end of the video, I'll share the specific ones that I have. Honestly, one of the reasons that I didn't buy them for so long was because I thought they were just really expensive for something that I was getting by fine without. But these are actually really great quality and a really good price point. So we'll talk about that at the end of the video. So the first reason that I love trekking poles is they make your hike so much easier. So for example, if your hike has any sort of elevation gain or elevation loss, trekking poles for me are a must, because when you're going uphill, for example, if you don't have your trekking poles, it's really just your legs doing the work. But trekking poles get your arms involved, and then that takes some of the weight off of your legs, and it also takes some of the strain off of your knees and off of your hips. And so if you're going on long hikes, backpacking trips, long day hikes with a lot of elevation gain, over time, this will make such a difference. If you're someone whose hands swell a lot as you're hiking, using trekking poles will eliminate or really reduce that hand swelling as well. Now, if you've hiked a lot, you know that oftentimes the downhill is one of the most challenging parts of a hike, especially if the downhill happens to be at the end of your hike when your legs are already tired. It's just a time in the hike that is really prone to injury. So again, our trusty trekking poles provide stability as you're going downhill. They provide stability on wet and muddy hikes, which it is spring right now. This is full on spring hiking. It's muddy here. And so as I'm going down little sections that are slippery and muddy, I love having my trekking poles. So all of that is a good reason to get yourself some trekking poles, but I'm not done. Reason number 2 is trekking poles can help reduce falls and injuries. Now, when you're hiking, this should be a top priority of yours. You want to stay safe, especially if you're doing really long day hikes or you're days and miles into the backcountry where advanced medical care is not quickly available. So avoiding injuries is really important, and I think one of the simple ways to do that is using trekking poles, because they give you that extra level of stability as you're going up and down and over things that are uneven or slippery, like we already kind of talked about. Next, we have some emergency and first aid uses with trekking poles, and you can get really creative here. One simple thing that you can do with these is take some extra clothing that you have and pad the top, and they can be used as improvised crutches. They can be used as splints or stretchers in the backcountry. So again, there are a lot of great first aid uses for this piece of gear, which is awesome to have one piece of gear that kind of does a lot of different things and that can help you in an emergency situation. Another use could potentially be to make some sort of shelter, an emergency shelter, using your trekking poles and other resources around you. We actually use trekking poles intentionally sometimes. In the backcountry, we have a really cool tarp tent, and instead of carrying all these poles and stuff, you set up this tent with trekking poles. So it actually saves us a ton of weight in our backpack when we're in the backcountry. So that's an intentional use for trekking poles, but as you can see, there are just a lot of uses that potentially could really help you in a sticky situation outside. You probably want them by now, right? But we're not done. The next use for these trekking poles this is probably one of my favorite reasons to have trekking poles, is they can be used to probe into water or snow to see how deep it is, and also to help you cross streams and rivers and stuff like that. Now, this is not a full tutorial on how to cross rivers. That is very, very dangerous. I do want to kind of go over a couple uses though, and how the trekking poles can assist with that, but this is not a full-blown tutorial. So first of all, when you're crossing something, like this is just a little stream here, not really high risk, right? But when you're crossing something, let's say without these trekking poles, and I'm just like, la-di-da, crossing the river, picking up my foot, all of a sudden here, this is not a good position, right? I only have one point of contact on the ground. I'm in moving water, and then this foot that I'm stepping down with, I don't know how even that surface is going to be. There might be some rocks down there. And so this is just like not great. If you fall, you get all your stuff wet. And so trekking poles are great because now as I'm going through the water, I have 4 points of contact, 2 feet, 2 trekking poles. And as I step, I'm always thinking in my head 3 points of contact. So I want to move one pole or 1 foot at a time, and then I have 3 points of contact. I'm much more stable, and I can kind of feel in front of me how deep something is going to be, how loose the ground is, and it provides such a more stable, safe base for when you're actually crossing. We used trekking poles when we did the Paria Canyon backpacking trip, and that water was very like muddy and murky. And so you would get to a water crossing and you can't even see the bottom. So I would constantly use my trekking pole to probe to see how deep that water was, and then to keep me stable as I was moving across it. I mean, all these points are really important, but this one especially, crossing water is just super dangerous, and trekking poles make it a lot more stable. This is the good spring hiking right here. So we are in it now. This is a really, really muddy, steep uphill, and it's springtime, so things are just a lot more wet, and I don't know about this section of trail without the trekking poles. I'm pretty sure I would fall. I've actually done this hike. The first time I did it was like 9 years ago in the spring, and I did fall. I had sneakers on with no trekking poles. Definitely am a lot more prepared and skillful now, I would say, but I actually fell on part of the trail down there, like full wipeout, covered in mud. So this is bringing back memories, but yeah, just a prime example of a section of trail that trekking poles are just key. Okay, so by now those are some big reasons to consider some trekking poles, but there's just one other one. I feel like an infomercial, you know, but wait, there's more.
Call now.
And I guess in a pinch, you could really use your trekking poles to ward off some animals. I personally have never had to do that, thankfully. I have heard stories of people using their trekking poles to ward off bears and stuff. So, I mean, it happens, and there you go, yet another use. Now, before I dive into the specific ones that I have, you'll notice a little bit of duct tape here, and this is just like a little tip, I guess. I like to have a little bit of duct tape on my trekking pole for quick patches or gear repairs or something like that. It's just like a cool place to store a little bit of duct tape. Now, these trekking poles that I have, like I said, they're not expensive. I will link to these in the description below. I haven't tried like a million different brands and whatnot, but I found that these are just awesome for the price point. Nick has had his pair for I think almost 6 years now, and they're just at the point where they kind of need to be replaced, but I mean that's 6 years of a ton of use. We've definitely put these through the ringer, and I want to share a couple features that I really like when it comes to a trekking pole. So no matter what brand you go for, these are the 2 things that I would look for. One is cork handles. Now, you'll usually find cork or rubber, and as your hands start to get sweaty on a hike, cork I think is just a lot more comfortable. Rubber becomes slippery as your hands start to sweat. And then the other thing, these are carbon fiber trekking poles. So usually there's carbon fiber or aluminum, and carbon fiber, while it is typically a little bit more expensive, they are going to be stronger and lighter. So that's what I look for in my trekking poles. Like I said, these have been just absolutely great for us, and I will link to them in the description below. Now, before you click off this video, I am really curious. So in the comments, if you have trekking poles, share some of the reasons that you love them. And if you don't have trekking poles, have I changed your mind? I'm really curious to read your comments below. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.